Hello and welcome to the 57th episode of The Real List, a podcast about our real list. I'm your host, Ellis.
And I'm your host, Gloria, and this is John Wick Chapter 2.
Who could have seen this coming?
This was, came out in 2017. You know, it was directed by the same people who directed Chapter 1. Same character, well, you know, Keanu Reeves, you have, Ian McShane, John Leguizamo from the last movie.
Yeah, everyone else from the last movie is dead.
Yes, very much dead. And you know, you have Lawrence Fishburne, Ricardo Scamarcio,
Ricardo Scamarcio.
Ruby Rose, Lance Reddick, Peter. He was the guy. He was
the guy.
Santino.
Oh, okay.
Santino D'Antoni.
See, he has long hair in this picture.
Yeah.
And, it's not helping me. The thing is, I have opinions about this film, but I also was fighting sleep for a lot of it, which informs my opinions about this film. Because one might say I was less than riveted for a lot of this. This is not as good of a movie as the first one was. I think. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I would hope it's not an unpopular opinion.
Oh no, this movie made a lot of money.
It did make a lot of money, but then again, it was a sequel to a blockbuster.
Yeah.
With $147 million is not something to stake a stick at.
Yeah, but basically the plot of this movie is it rolls right off the first one. You know, John is recovering. You know, he's back home and he's trying to stay out of his. Stop trying to working, basically.
He wants to be retired again, but he wants his damn car back.
Yeah, so he goes to Viggo's brother's place
shop. I don't know.
Shop. I don't know, like a.
It looks like a warehouse. Yeah. He has his offices in the warehouse, which is kind of jank.
Yeah. But anyways, he goes to his warehouse and he's like taking out his men, and then he goes to the garage where all the cars are held, walks past a couple cars, and then takes a tarp off one car, and it's his car.
Yeah, he
knew. The man knew it was his car. But
that's why his wife had to say you need to find something else to love, because he loves that car.
Mm-hmm.
What about the fact that Viggo's first of all that it's Viggo's brother, and it's very funny, and he repeats the same line in the same story everything.
That Viggo told his son.
Honestly, the opening of this movie is one of the better parts. It is really funny watching that interaction, and also with the henchman who's like, I know the story. I've heard the story of him with the pencil. And then watching Viggo's brother's face as, like, he hears all his henchmen get beat up outside.
Yeah. And then poor John gets his car back, and then it gets fucked up again because Viggo's people get in cabs and start fucking up his car doing like a derby.
Yeah, why? That's my biggest question. I don't think you have an explanation for it. I'm sure there's an explanation somewhere, but like, if they just let them... Clearly, Viggo's brother was crapping his pants for the entirety of the beginning of the movie and like knew this doom was coming upon him. John was just gonna leave, guys. He was going to drive out of the building and you would have never seen him again. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't blame... So much of the plot in this movie, and it's similar to the last movie, but so much of the plot in this movie is people thinking that, I don't know, people just decide, people being arrogant or assuming something about what John Wick will do, usually that he will die, which is a bad thing to assume about John Wick, and acting on that with no semblance of sense. All the villains in this movie are so dumb.
Do they not know who they're dealing with? Like,
yeah, exactly.
But the thing is also John Wick goes into his office and pours him a drink of his booze.
Yeah, that's, again, the beginning of this movie is the best part.
And says peace, and then, like, they drink, and then he leaves and goes home, and then Aurelio comes and picks up the car and is like, all your shit's hanging out, but I can fix it.
Yeah. I'll have it done for you by Christmas 2030, is what he says. Which is funny, because I then went, when did this movie come out? I was tired, so I didn't look it up. But I was thinking, like, that line is going to age poorly. Like, the longer from now this happens, the more people are going to go, hold on, what? That's, like, soon, or that's past. When did this movie come out? It's going to break people's immersion. It dates the movie. But it doesn't really matter. It's such a minor thing. Again, compared to the, again, so stupid villains. Like, this movie would not happen if the villains had a brain. Like one brain
Just
shell
to
share between them. Yes, leave
the
man alone.
But anyways, the Camorra crime boss, Santino D'Antonio, shows up and reminds John that he helped him escape. He helped him do his impossible task. Yes, and they did a blood oath, and now San D'Antonio's trying to cash in his token.
Yep.
Like, I got something for you to do, and you're gonna do it, or else you're gonna get killed.
Yeah, I mean, or else, I guess that them's the rules. I would assume council puts out...
Well, that's what Winston said. He was like, you don't do it, you die. You kill the person who has the blood oath, you die. Like...
And this, again, proves that John Wick is the most intelligent person here, because despite the fact that he turns it down initially, because he wants to be retired, when he goes and talks to Winston, and Winston is like, yo, you gotta go do it.
Them's the rules.
Them's the rules. Then he goes and he takes a job, and then he does the job. Like, if you want someone to stop tormenting you, don't keep pissing them off. That's the moral of this entire story. Don't double-cross John Wick for no reason. Don't then call out an additional contract on him for no reason after he's defeated your first round of people.
But the thing is that D'Antonio wanted John to kill his sister.
Yes.
Because he wanted her seat at the high table. Because he was like, oh, she's going to do terrible things to this city. I'm like...
Listen, I don't think... Well, it was pretty clear to me that he was going to do more of the terrible things than she was.
Yeah, but that's what he was saying to John Wick.
What he said is, think of what I can do with her power.
Oh, I was...
Which is just like a clear, like, I'm doing this for totally selfish means. And again, which is understandable why John would be like, no, I don't want no part of that. Also because it was an impossible task. But, yeah, and he gets in there with no problem. And he would have gotten out with no problem because he's the boogeyman. He's really good at what he does. The montage. Was that not an awesome preparation montage leading up to him
where
doing
he goes to Italy and he's getting the suits with the tactical and the bullet, like the bulletproof suit, and then he's getting the blueprints to the facility for her coronation, and like the underground tunnels, the catacombs. That's what they were called.
Yeah,
and the guns, the wine cellar, like the wine cellar that looked like the gun, the
wine cellar gun store.
Yeah.
And I love how he's describing the guns too.
Oh yeah, like it's wine.
Something for dessert. Here's a shotgun.
Yeah.
And he had that thing hidden in the catacombs for himself to grab, which is, again...
Like, he laid out the plan. Like, he made this plan. Like, he had a gun hidden, like, where he first entered the catacombs, and then he had placed other things throughout the catacombs as well. Like, if you're not paying attention, you don't see it, but he placed certain things,
I just saw the shotgun. That's the only one that I noticed. Because I was just, like, so slick. I'm like, what's he reaching up there for? Oh, okay, he's got the shotgun and all the shells in the utility belt. Yeah, no, I don't... Santino is just... He grinds my gears, man, because I get that he's supposed to be this arrogant dude, but, like, you can stop at some point. Like, John Wick, like, yeah, he's pissed at you, but he will only go to a point. And then the thing that boggles my mind, which is one of my biggest problems with this movie, because it seems like it's just setting itself, like, I can get with arrogant bad guys, I don't want to complain about certain things that we wouldn't have a plot otherwise of. But then John Wick goes and kills him in the Continental. Why? Why, dude? You could threaten him. I was hoping he was just going to threaten him to get him to pull the contract. But he just walks up to him and blows his head off in the middle of the dining room in the Continental. It's like, dude, you're supposed to be smarter than that. You know? I feel like everyone in this movie is dumb for no reason. Don't you?
Well, I mean, San Antonio. He did blow up his house.
Yeah, but clearly John Wick was over that, or he would have tried to kill him the first time.
Yeah, but John Wick would have died either way if he killed him because he had the marker.
Yeah, I get that, but he went and he did the marker, so now he wasn't going to get murdered by every living soul in New York City, apparently. And then, he decided to be petty about Santino trying to kill him, which I understand. He's trying to kill you. But that's one of the problems that I have with this movie fundamentally, like why it didn't grab me. Why didn't I care that John Wick was gonna get murdered like 17 times in this film? I cared more about the dog. I cared more about... I felt worse when the car was killed, or, the car was destroyed. Like, I don't know what it is about this movie that failed to make me care for John Wick. That, I think, is the biggest problem, and I don't know how you fix that. It's sort of a fundamental thing.
I don't know because I really just I
mean, I want to hear your thoughts about this movie because I know you like this series and I know you like this movie.
I do. I like this. I like these movies, and I like the little things, the little details that you miss, like where everybody's like asking John, "You working?"
Yeah.
I like those little scenes, and then where they're in Italy and they're fighting and they crash in through the window of the Rome Continental.
Yeah.
And they're like, and then the guy's like, "Are we doing business on continental grounds? That's not allowed." And then they look at each other. He's like, "Gin, right?" And he's like, "Bourbon, right?" And then like, call it a professional courtesy.
Yep.
And then the subway scene where he stabs him and he's like, "Call it a professional courtesy. Like, if you take this out, you will die."
Yeah. In the micro, and it's funny because that is a repeat of what he did to the other guy with the birds. In the micro, in the small scale, this movie is very well written. It has these little quips that work very well.
Mm-hmm.
It has these little, not like Chekhov's guns, but recurring things that work very well. And I wish I liked it more, because also the fight scenes in this movie, to me, are a step up over the last movie. There's a lot less gunplay and a lot more physical fighting.
Hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, which was, if you remember last episode, was the thing that I was like, this is sort of missing that. It's the gun, the shootouts,
mm-hmm.
they're cool, but they don't do a lot for me. The hand-to-hand stuff is more entertaining to me because it allows them to be more resourceful. On the other hand, sort of like the last movie, John Wick takes a lot of pounding that doesn't seem to matter to him. But again, he's John Wick. I mean, okay. It's just like, I feel like he would have bled out sometime during his walk back to where the guy was in the subway. Somewhere between him arriving in New York and meeting the subway guy. I feel like he'd have died a couple times.
What's funny is we talked about the subway scene, and we had where he had the bounty on his head after the 7 million bounty was put on his head, and he was walking through the subway, and everybody was trying to get to him, and then Cassian was across the way, and they were the PA was like, "Oh, please take note to any
suspicious activity."
Activity, and then
if you see something, say something.
And the subway train goes by, and there's just John stabbing somebody, and Cassian's like, "I'm like, there's your something. Say something."
That's the other thing about this movie, and why these are. I'll say it again later. This is the Fast and Furious of action movies. I think so, because it just gets more and more ridiculous. This is like, they're having full-on shootouts and stuff in these subway cars, or on the street, or in public spaces. Like when they're walking through the subway station or the Oculus and like shooting at each other, which is just an insane scene. And no one reacts. No one says anything.
I was like, you would definitely hear something like, I get there's silencers on their guns, but like you would definitely hear something.
Yeah, no,
There's no way that there would be no reaction. Like in the last movie there was a lot of, people reacting. Like
Mhm.
there was like in this movie there wasn't that as much.
Which is a shame, because the thing that the last movie did so well that we get to mention at the very, very end was the world building. The world building is impeccable. It's still really good in this film, but I feel like they took it too far. It's like everyone in New York is a hitman. You know?
Yeah. But I
It's,
mean it shows you that they're hidden in plain sight.
it shows you that the council has a lot of power, but at some point it stops being a secret society. It's just like, no, everyone is a hitman. Okay. You know.
I kind of want to bring it back to where you said he completed the marker. I mean, he technically did complete the marker, but Gianna killed herself. She slit her wrists.
Yes.
And the crazy thing is that John and her used to be friends.
They probably banged. I bet they banged.
Probably. And he, like, held her hand as she died.
Mm-hmm.
But then he, like, shoots her and then leaves. And then, he gets into the first fight with Cassian and stuff. And I'm like, he technically did complete...
Whatever, she's dead. It's semantics. The fact that he does shoot her in the head, though, was it you that said, or was it Gianna that said? Because we had Gloria's best friend and brother here to watch with us.
Mm-hmm.
There was a talk of having them on the podcast, but I was too tired to make.
Yeah, it was too tiring last night.
I kind of wish we had started the precedent of having other people on the show with my dad and Greyhound. But I feel like that ship is so far sailed, it's got to just be us. We can't do guests.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's not a pun. But, yeah, was it you that said it, or was it Gianna that said it? Like, oh, you got to shoot her in the head to, like, take ownership of the death, so to speak. If he had just walked away and she had slit her own wrist, there was no evidence that he had ever been there or that he did anything. But clearly she didn't slit her wrist and then shoot herself in the head, so someone had to shoot her in the head. Therefore it was John Wick. It's a little thing, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little thing where it's like, well, your dial isn't complete because you didn't kill her. What do you mean? I went there and I was going to kill her and then she slit her own wrist because I was there. It's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, but then as he's escaping, Santino frigging sends his own men after him.
That's so dumb.
Like, oh, I have to avenge my sister's death after I made you kill her.
So dumb. So dumb.
Like,
so dumb.
how does that, like, that makes you sound stupid? I have to avenge. I have to avenge my sister's death, even though I made you kill her.
Yeah, even though I blew up your house because you wouldn't kill her. Now I'm gonna send my hit squad. Sorry, I'm gonna send my hit squad. It's so stupid, and I don't usually say that about movies very often. It just seems weird, but between that and the murdering Santino in the Continental, and just John hanging up on him the first time, which, I mean, he's not a man to mince words, I understand. And then the weird Deus Ex Machina with the subway dude, with the pigeon dude.
Oh, yeah.
And it'd be like, there's a war coming that I started. There's a war coming. I'm the only one who can help you by killing this person. It just seems so. I don't know. I feel like halfway through the movie they wrote themselves into a corner that they didn't know how to get John Wick out of, so they just started throwing stuff at the wall. And really, why not just make the whole movie about him trying to get to the sister? Why wrap that up in the first 30 minutes and then have to deal with all this other faff? It just doesn't. It's such a weird call, but in the end, it's still an entertaining movie. I just didn't care about John Wick. Like, the first movie, they made him a sympathetic character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like he is a sympathetic character in this movie. He's just another cog in the hitman machine, which I get is sort of like the theme of the movie, but the portrayal of it doesn't make me want to root for John Wick. That's the end of my thought.
Sorry, I was reading. Sorry, I was trying to think of what else I was going to say because I said all my good spiel earlier. um, I wanted to say how when he kills him on the ground, before he killed him, Winston was at the bar and like, Jonathan. And then I think John maybe would have let him go if Santino just kept his mouth shut and said, yeah, Jonathan. Like, egged him on and caused him to get shot in the head. I feel like John Wick wouldn't have shot him in the head if Santino didn't egg him on. If he just kept his mouth shut, he probably would have not been excommunicadoed.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's a good question. Trying to think about it from John Wick's perspective, maybe he wouldn't if he wasn't taunted more, but he doesn't seem like the guy to be bothered by being taunted, which is why the entire back half of the movie seems weird to me. You know? Maybe he is, but the movie doesn't spell that out as a pattern, you know?
I don't know. It was just a thought, you know. It's just,
no, and you're right. You're right. I mean, it is certainly for Santino, it makes a lot of sense for his arc, for his character, that he gets himself killed because he keeps running his mouth, because he's arrogant.
That is true.
Dumb.
That is true.
You know, it works from that point of view. I just don't think it works for John.
But then, yeah, but after that, John, like, leaves with his dog.
Yep. Goes back to his burned down house. And then he gets the call from the Continental to, like, go and meet his death. And he just goes.
He goes, but, I mean, he doesn't get killed. He goes and meets Winston in the park.
Yeah.
So what is that, Central Park?
Yeah, it's Central Park, I believe.
Meets him at Central Park and tells him that the Kimura have doubled the bounty and is taking it globally, worldwide.
So he has nowhere to run.
He has nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, basically, and that he's going to declare him excommunicado and terminating all his access and privilege to any Continental across the world.
Yep.
And so he gives him an hour to give him a head start, and he gives him a marker, the blood thingy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why.
It says,
like, I don't know what the marker is. It leaves it, I think, purposefully ambiguous, unless there's something that I'm missing.
It says that he gives it to him to
for future use.
Yeah,
but I don't know whose, if anyone's, thumbprint is in that marker. Have you seen the third one?
Maybe. I think I have.
Because despite the issues I have with this movie, it does end on a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to take issue with that because that's sometimes how trilogies go. I mean, Revenge of the Sith ends on a cliffhanger, Star Wars 5. Back to the Future 2 ends on a cliffhanger. I can't think of any other trilogies that do that off the top of my head, but those are really, really big name ones. I shouldn't need to think of any more.
Mm-hmm.
They all, because you usually write a first movie, and then sometimes you write the next pair together if you think the first one did well enough. And that's, I would assume, what they did here. So I'm curious as to what they introduce, how John Wick goes on, but it's more of a question of, well, how the hell is he going to deal with this? And because this seems completely ridiculous, then it is like wow, I really hope John Wick makes it out of this. Obviously, there's a fourth one, so I know that he survives number 3.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to potentially give anything away for the next movie.
Yeah, no, I don't hear anything.
So, but I mean, this movie is great. I mean, it's
something.
It's something else. It's the continuation of that action movie. Like, see, I don't really like Fast and Furious, but I like this.
Yeah, well,
I don't like typical action films. But
have you watched OG Fast and any of the Fast and the Furious?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't, but I know they just get more ridiculous over time.
I don't like the
family. I
don't know. Sometimes the storylines just don't make sense to me, and I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not gonna watch Fast and the Furious, but
No, no,
maybe like the first one. No,
no.
I'm kidding. But you know, that's just there's so much in that the first movie does right that this movie doesn't, and they could have made a whole movie about him trying to get his car back, which would be a nice continuation of the last one. They could have made the whole movie about him going after Gianna. Instead, they squished all that into the first 30 minutes and put together this insane turn of events driven by insane people, John Wick included, in order to make number 3 him against the world, it would seem. It seems like they wanted him against the world, and this is just how they got there. I feel like they could have done all that better. The world building part is still interesting. It's nice to see the spy, you know, the introduction of the high table, the introduction of the dials, or the markers rather. I'm thinking confession dial from Doctor Who. It's all very neat, and it's neat to see. It's interesting to see. But on the one hand, I don't feel like they open a lot of questions that they don't give us answers to, and all the main characters have lost their minds. The only person that has his head on straight is Ian McShane. And honestly, just give me a movie of him.
I think you see more of him in the third movie. I'm not entirely sure.
That's a spoiler.
Well, it's... If the characters are consistent, you're going to see more of him, obviously.
I mean, maybe, but you'd figure John Wick is going to be far away from any Continental. I would think. That's where I would go. I would go to, like, you know, he's in Manhattan. I would see if I could get at least as far as upstate New York. Or get me to, like, the big Indian wilderness, which is, like, the Adirondack State Park. Just away from as many people as I can be. Because the whole world is about to try to kill me in an hour. You're probably not going to make it there. You're going to get stuck in traffic on I-87 trying to leave New York City, and then suddenly all the cars around you are full of hitmen, and they just murder you in a blind crossfire. But you're John Wick, so you get out of it. I'm pretty sure that's
What do you want to rate this movie?
3.5.
I'll give it a 4.
I'm surprised you're rating it that low. If I'm honest, I thought we were going to be much further apart on this one. I'm still giving it 3.5 because
You gave me a 5. I said 4.
I gave you a 5. Yeah, my bad. You're right. You did say 4. We have that on video, or on audio.
Well, I mean, it's not that I didn't like this movie. It's just, you're right. The repetition, like, it's not that great of a film. I mean, I was heavily intoxicated last night.
God damn it.
But I still enjoyed this movie a lot. But
I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
Maybe. But looking back on it, it's like,
there might be things that I'm missing about these characters, about this setting. I was sleepy, but I just feel like it's a film that doesn't hold up to analysis of the characters and their actions. The thing that's... And I know this is ridiculous, and it stems from the fact that I don't care about John Wick in this movie. But the fact that Santino tried to kill him after killing Santino's sister, it just strikes me as, you put the fear of God into Santino, he's not going to try to kill you anymore, just be done with it. Like, if you want to retire, be like, peace on the phone, like we saw you able to do at the beginning of the movie. It would have been a great, like, show and tell of, like, yes, he can make peace with someone who just had a bunch of dudes try to kill him literally 5 minutes ago. But he doesn't do that with Santino, and I can't explain why. Maybe because he is
either, but...
maybe because he's genuinely, the only explanation is that he's genuinely pissed at Santino because he didn't want to kill his sister in the first place, because he has affection for the sister, but they don't set enough of that up. It's a little too subtle. And this movie is not about subtlety.
But I like how the sister was like, oh, if I die, I go out on my terms. I like that she was like...
You know, she's cool. I wish she didn't kill herself. Or die. I really thought there was going to be a moment of John, like, teaming up with her because he liked her cause better, and then it would be the two of them against the world. That's the thing. I get this is John and his dog go solo, you know? But sort of like a discussion for a project that I might be working on in the near future, at some point, it's tough to do a narrative with an interesting character where they're all by their goddamn self. You need someone for them to talk to. And that's, I think, part of the problem with me in this movie is just the character of John Wick is just... He's just a ghost in the fog. He's a gray shape out of a million gray shapes. He's just another hitman now. He's good at his job, but he's not the guy who's getting revenge for his car and his dog anymore. He's looking out for his behind, and that's it. And sometimes not even that. He wanted to kill Santino and die. And I didn't feel compelled by that. Which is a shame, because it's... So many other aspects of this movie are good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not wrong. Like, I mean, I enjoy this film. I mean, it's a good movie. But, I mean, you know, it has its moments.
Again, I think it's just Fast and Furious if you like these kind of action movies. I like it. You know, I like it for that aspect. If I cared more about gunfights and fight scenes, I'd like it a lot more. And I bet if we cared about car racing, we'd enjoy Fast and Furious a lot more. It's one of those things. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something else?
No.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of The Realist. I'm glad my rambling got to end with something also from Gloria as opposed to last time. If you have seen this movie, if you have an opinion that's different than mine especially, I want to hear it. If you have a good reason for that, if you have a better understanding of John Wick as a character than Sleepy Me and Drunken Gloria, please make a comment down below about that. Give us a like if you want. Subscribe if you want more, because we're going to do 3 next week, and then we're going to do 4 after that, assuming it's still in theaters. And then we'll maybe do some movies from me. We made this crazy bargaining agreement earlier today, and I'm going to say it now so it's on record before I forget. Earlier today, Gloria said, get your hand off of the mouse. Gloria's trying to end the recording. We'd watch Markiplier for like Five Nights at Freddy's for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and then we'd watch The History of the Seattle Mariners, the greatest documentary of all time. Thank you.
No!
You agreed to this. You did. We shook on it. We shook hands. I'm not making this up.